Hey there, Resourcefulites. Mark Decote here, your host. And I didn't have enough time to put together an episode this week, but I did want to share a couple of things with you regardless. Now, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you may remember when I used to share a resource or tip of the week. Well, this is something like that. I have a couple of tips or advice that I want to share with you this week. The first one of which is, if you haven't done so already, you really need to change your Google Analytics to GA4, Google Analytics 4. In case you're unaware, as of July 1st of this year, 2023, Universal Analytics, which has been what we've been using up to this point, will no longer be processing new data, and everything will switch over to GA4. Now, what you may not be aware of is this is not just an upgrade where you go from one to the other and it just keeps going. When they switch over to GA4, none of the data or analytics that you collected with Universal Analytics will migrate over. You're going to lose all of that data and you're starting again from scratch. So that's why it's recommended that you set up your GA4 account or property today or as soon as possible so that you can start collecting data so that as of July 1st, 2023, you will already have data collected whenever the switch is made. Now, the reason for this is Google has changed the way they're going to be collecting data, which made it impossible, or I don't know if it's impossible is the right word, but they've decided not to just migrate the old data to the new property. Now, with that said, there are a couple of recommendations that I can share with you. For one is, I recommend you log into your Google Analytics account, go to the admin section, which is the little sprocket at the bottom left-hand side, and then go to the GA4 Setup Assistant. Scroll down and turn off automatically set up a basic Google Analytics 4 property. You want to turn this off because if you don't, what Google will do is they'll just convert your existing Universal Analytics account over to a GA4 property and get rid of your old one, which will lose all of that data, or at least that's what I've been told from various sources. So turn off the automatic setup. And then on that same page above, you can do the Get Started to set up your own Google Analytics 4 property. And what this will do is it'll set up a property in conjunction with your existing Universal Analytics account so that you'll actually be collecting data in both accounts. And the other benefit is, as of July 1st, when the Universal Analytics stops collecting data, that data will still be available to you for at least till the end of the year. I think that's what Google said, is they're going to leave that in your account. You'll still have access to your old Universal Analytics account. You'll be able to see it, view it, download it until the end of the year as your new GA4 account populates itself with its new data. So all of this to say that if you haven't done so already, you need to go over to your Google Analytics. And if you don't have Google Analytics, what are you waiting for? It's an amazing platform. It's absolutely free to set up, and it can collect all sorts of stuff about your website. And even if you don't think you need it now, there is a time in the future where you may need it. And at that point, you'll be grateful to have all the data already set up or collected. So don't wait until the deadline. Set up your new GA4 property as soon as possible and start collecting that data so that come July 1st, you'll have a base to build upon. So that's the first bit of advice I want to share with you. Whether you do that for your own website or your client websites, get it done as soon as possible. The next thing I wanted to share with you is something that I had actually shared in the Resourceful Designer community, which, if you want to become a member, visit resourcefuldesigner.com/community. And this is a small bit of advice when communicating with your clients. You should never tell your clients that you should something. What I mean by that is you should never say, I should be able to start your project next week, or I should have something to show you by Friday. Instead, tell them that you plan. Like, I plan to start your project next week, or I plan on having something to show you by Friday. Or, as Keith, a member of the Resourceful Designer community, shared, he uses my goal is to. So he tells his clients, my goal is to start your project next week, or my goal is on having something to show you by Friday. And they both work the same way. You see, By saying should, I should be able to, or I should have something, it actually instills doubt. It tells the clients that you're unsure of your abilities. You're unsure if you are able to do it or not. Where if you use I plan to, or my goal is to, this instills confidence while still not guaranteeing anything, just in case you can't fulfill what you say. Now, using plan or my goal is to instead of will is also a good idea. So don't say, I will start on this next week, or I will have something to show you on Friday. Again, say, I plan to have something, or my goal is to have something. You see, the difference is planning on doing something or setting a goal to doing something, and if you don't succeed, that's forgivable. It's understandable. You planned to do it, something came up, and you weren't able to. That's okay. But if you say you will do something and you're not able to do it, you don't follow through, that actually harms your reputation. A client is much more willing to forgive you if you tell them you plan on doing something, but then you're not able to do it, than if you tell them you will do something and you're not able to do it. It's all semantics, and it could go a long way in helping you become a better business person. So never use should when you're telling your client about something you plan on doing. Use plan instead, or as Keith shared, my goal is to. Both of them work equally as well. So those are the two things I wanted to share with you this week. I plan on having a new episode of the podcast out for you next week. See what I did there? Using my own advice. But until then, I am Mark Dacote, wishing you all the best with your design business and reminding you to stay creative.